It's the Christmas season. It's that time of year when you unbury all the decorations from the attic and the garage. You put up the Christmas tree. You find that missing stocking with the reindeer on it. You clean out the gutters so that you can string up the lights before it snows, or you're the last dark house on the block. The kids have road games, early practices, that huge history project, and final tests to study for, along with 5 different Christmas parties and your son's extra holiday hours at his part-time job. When can he start driving again? Don't forget to write down the dates and times for the performances and the rehearsals of the programs at church, at school, and at the senior center where they want you to come dressed up as an elf. In tights. Then there's the shopping. Your son wants a new gaming system that can read his mind. Your daughter wants a doll that you're gonna have to make payments on. Your sister's emailed you 3 times asking what you want for Christmas and why you haven't just gotten an Amazon wish list set up already. Your spouse thinks maybe the two of you should just get each other a new furnace for Christmas, or maybe just donate all the gift money to orphans in Cambodia. And then there's the Secret Santa thing at work. What's a white elephant gift again, anyway? The school sent home a note saying half the kids have strep. Your spouse came home with a box of double extra strength cough medicine and a case of Kleenex boxes. You're pretty sure there was something wrong with that last piece of fruitcake you just ate. And your daughter's so stuffy she looks and sounds just like Rudolph. Christmas is at your parents' house this year, and at your spouse's brother's place down south, and at your aunt's place on the lake. If the weather's nice and your kids sleep in the car, you might just make it to all 3. And you should make sure that you stop in at the office party for at least a little while. Also, your friends are in town, so could you set aside a night of the week to do a special Christmas just with them? Oh, and can we do it at your house? Your boss needs you to make sure you get that project done before Christmas, even though he's going to be out of town until January. And you have to cover for your coworker who spends every Christmas in Hawaii. Also, none of your contractors will answer the phone after December 15th. Plus, you need to make that green bean dish you're so good at for Christmas dinner, and that peppermint dessert all the kids love for the other Christmas dinner, and something gluten-free for Uncle Dale, and a backup ham just in case your mom's stove blinks out again. Also, there's cookies and carols at the church on Saturday afternoon. Everybody bring 2 dozen. Oh, and don't forget, Jesus is the reason for the season. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. That time of year. Hi, my name is Brandon White. I'm the student pastor here at Second. I need you to turn to Exodus chapter 31. Exodus 31, and I just want to forewarn you, it's going to be a minute before we get there. Don't be impatient. I promise we're going to get there. You all look great in your sweaters. That might be ugly, might be not, I don't know. I'm always scared to say nice ugly sweater because it might be your finest one, okay? I never know how to respond to that. God and I have a gentleman's agreement. When he makes it 80 degrees, I don't wear sleeves. So I am not partaking. But you all look great. 2 things. It's not lost on me that I did in our Christmas series just ask you to go to Exodus. And then last week, Tommy asked us to go to Genesis. And so we are on pace for Christmas Eve service in Numbers, which is going to be so exciting. And if we play our cards right, next Christmas Eve will be in the New Testament. So I hope you're looking forward to that. Tongue-in-cheek there. A little bit more seriously, when Jeremy asked me to teach during our Christmas series, he gave me 2 options. First option was family strife. No, thank you. Thank you, Tommy. But the other one is busyness, if you didn't get it from the video. And it is a busy time of year, but I'm actually quite thankful because if there is an area of my life that God has dealt sometime painfully with me over the last 2 to 3 years, it has been chaos and busyness in my life, which has led to really bad results personally. And so he's just done a great work. And so I am, and I mean it, I'm very excited because I believe God has taught me some things, and I'm going to share some of those things with you, especially when we get to application. But I by no means am an expert, okay? I am still along for the ride with you in this. And so actually something that, and it just speaks to the busyness maybe of my sermon, I don't know. I had meant to do something that the first service never got. So you get an awesome added bonus. Because I am not an expert, and I'll have these at the front. I'm just going to mention them really quick and put them down. These two books were very instrumental. This one more so than this one, because I'm not done with this one. This one comes by the reference of Rob, who's a doctor and smarter than me. And so I'm going to trust him in that. But this book is called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. It's going to talk exponentially more about what we're going to talk about today. But then the anxious generation, and I don't want to tease that one too much. It's going to have to do with an exercise that we're all going to find fun and enjoyable here in a minute. But the way I want to start is this. I don't know if you're like me, but in the entertainment that I take in, I like to find characters that I find relatability to, okay? I don't know if you do that. I don't know if your thing is books or movies or TV shows or some combination of all those things. But I always thought, man, mine's going to be super noble and cool, right? Something like Batman or Superman, I don't know. No, not those things. But my favorite movie ever, if you want some Brandon trivia, is Tombstone. That's my favorite movie of all time. And thank you. I really, Wyatt Earp got some, or Kurt Russell, I don't know, whatever. Find some relatability to him. Doc Holliday, best line in movie history. I'm your Huckleberry. I just want to say that to somebody at some point. But he's also some comic relief. If you ask the staff who is comic relief on our staff, you're looking at them, all right? Sometimes they don't know if I'm joking or serious, and that's a problem. Sometimes you don't know if I'm joking, like I am joking right now. But one of them is quite embarrassing. My favorite TV show is The Office. The person I find most in common with me is a guy by the name of Kevin Malone. You may not know The Office. The giggles you hear around you are appropriate, all right? Kevin is quite slow, very dull, not super intelligent. He's a simple man, he's immature, and much like Kevin, he and I lead very slow and dull lives. Here's why this matters at all. In the middle, like 2024 has done something unique, and I don't think I'm alone. What's not funny about being more slow-paced, laid-back, and laxed in my tendencies is that I've been met with 2024 going on 2025's lightning pace speed. And what has happened has not been fun. It is not pleasant, the pace at which our world moves, the pace at which we have to operate in order to keep up, or at least we might feel that way. I think two words that might help all of us relate is this idea of frantic and hurried. Maybe your life feels that way, especially during the Thanksgiving to New Year window with Christmas right in the middle. That we are quite frantic and hurried. And when that becomes a problem is when a hurried life becomes an identity and the norm. And so here's our opening reality that we have to get to first. We live in a culture of busyness. That is the norm. And the truth is, the holidays just help us feel it more. We live, and it's not our calendar's fault. It's not stuff outside of us. It's not just stuff within us. It's a combination of everything. Everything we know today, especially in America, is fast-paced, busy, hectic chaos. But much like the yellow or orange or red lights on your dashboard that you either freak out about or ignore and have become accustomed to, they are much better, those warnings, than breaking down on the side of the road. And so we have to start with where we are, what the truth is. Now, I think a lot of us in this room felt the video. Did you correlate with anything in it? The number of engagements you have to be at, the number of responsibilities you have, all the extra stuff. And here's the bad news. I was about to say good news. We're busy outside of Christmas, right? Christmas just amplify it, turns that up to 1 million, right? We have, and you kind of fall on one of two scales here. Some of you have to work way more hours this time of year. Others of you who may or may not be responsible for those more hours, you saved all your time off and you're taking it from now to the end of, I don't know, January, right? Some of depending on which way. But here's the thing. Even if you're the time off person, do you feel less busy? Is there less going on, or you just not have to go to work? Some of the responsibility is off your plate. We're still busy even in our breaks from work. We have parties, we have family, we have get-togethers, we have programs and practices. Sports haven't stopped, right? So we still have to take people to sports, go attend those games on the weekends. We live in a day where we might have room for church or Jesus. We know that we're all busy. But I want to address something that might fall on it. Before we just get to solutions to our busyness, I want to speak to a point that might fall under the radar for us, okay? It might be something we don't notice and we don't see, but absolutely contributes to our busyness. And everything I'm about to say and have you do is going to be uncomfortable and is something that I have spent almost 3 years processing through. It's not a good look, okay? While there are real things that weigh down our time, we also live in a day where busyness and stress are manufactured in a way due to technology, all right? I understand the uncomfortability I just created, okay? But I want to be honest with every section, all eyes, ready? Technology is not bad. Technology is not bad. Technology is not bad, not bad, not bad, okay? I love that I get to go to my house and I can go to a restroom and it flushes indoors. I love technology. You should too. But when we start talking about digital technology, there's something that has happened that makes it maybe not healthy. Just like anything, technology, when left unchecked, becomes a problem. It becomes dangerous. And so what I would propose to you today is that America, between phone, tablets, TV, and gaming, that usage is largely unchecked in our lives. I don't know if that's true. Don't know what kind of things you're feeling right now. Probably hate towards me. But those things are largely unchecked. I want to give a couple of examples. Social media. I'm venturing to guess that not a single person in this room signed up on a social media platform saying, I would love to ruin my life. Any of you go for that reason? No. No, we went because we could connect with people who are far away. We could see what's going on in the lives of our friends and family. It was a more direct route to be close. But what has happened? It consumes our time. And what's crazy is that God intended us to live one life, the life that we have been given. But because of social media, is this not what we do? We now take in dozens, sometimes hundreds of lives, and we live all of those lives together as if it were our own. We amplify the busyness artificially in our lives. Think about something else, something very innocent, push notifications, right? Don't get me wrong. I would love nothing more than to improve the news distribution of our world today. I think we can all agree that part of, not just America, the world is broken. However, we were never designed for instantaneous news about everything around the world and instantaneous response from anyone with a phone or internet. We were never designed to take in all that information, much less the feedback and opinions about that information. And we get here and we wonder why, man, I'm being told by this group of people that I must hate this group of people. We wonder why there is such conflict and chaos and turmoil. And so what we've done is we've simultaneously hit the unfortunate jackpot of information overload and mind-numbing distraction. And what's happened is we are consumed with technology. One final exercise. Here is the fun part, and I know the danger I'm about to ask everyone in this room. Take out your phone. Yeah, I know. Pretend it's under your chair, not in your hand. I get it. I've been there. Take out your phone. I make our students do this, and I feel like there's some glimmer of like glee in some of them that, all right, now mom and dad have to answer for this. You're going to go, you may know where this is going, you're going to find your screen time, all right? Yeah, there you go. Android users in the room, I have no idea what to tell you. I Googled it, okay? That's how you get there, okay? If you have an Apple device, I can be a little bit more helpful. You're going to go to your settings. You're going to go to the third or fourth section down. You're going to go to the bottom row of that section that says screen time. And then you are going to go to all app data, which is right under the bar graph. And then this is right now, you're probably looking at something that looks great, especially if you're an iPhone user, because your clock resets on Sundays. I'm not allowing that. You're going to go to week at the top left, and you're going to scroll to the left. That's the real number I want you to look at. All right. Oh, sorry. I should have said this from the beginning. I make our students say some of their numbers loud. I'm not asking you to share this with anybody. Some of you are, which is fine. Accountability is great. I want you to look at that number. I want you to take that number in, okay? Now, I'm not saying that any of the numbers on your screen are wrong or bad. My speculation is, no matter if yours says 1 hour or 10, that you don't love looking at the number you're looking at. That's my guess. I don't when I have to do it. But I am asking you, and I'm asking me, am I really busy? Am I really busy? Or do I manufacture some of my own busyness? Again, technology is not bad. It's just dangerous when left unchecked. And unchecked technology is causing us to feel busier than ever. Now, I am wise, and so I've handwritten this into my notes. Put your phones away. Put your phones away, screenshot that, figure out a way to look at it later. There's not nearly as much movement this time. I feel like some of you are still on those phones, which I did it. I get it. Sorry about that. Here's the good news. It does not matter if you are full-on Amish and you're just anti-technology. It also doesn't matter if you have zero responsibilities and all of your busyness is manufactured. I don't think these two people exist in here today, but we're all a combination of some percentage of each. The best news for us is this, is that God helps us address this question. What is the Christ-centered solution to our busyness problem? What is the Christ-centered solution to our busyness problem? That if we're being honest, is always there, but is amplified to no end this time of year. He doesn't leave us hanging. Like I said, it was going to be a while. Exodus 31. Exodus chapter 31. We're going to start in verse 12. Here's what the Lord says. And the Lord said to Moses, "You are to speak to the people of Israel and say," he's giving him direct instructions, "Here's what you're going to bring to my people. Above all, You shall keep my Sabbaths. For this is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I, the Lord, sanctify you. You shall keep the Sabbath because it is holy for you. Everyone who profanes it shall be put to death. Wow. Whoever does any work on it, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day shall be put to death. So what I want us to do before we dig into what God just said there, we need to define our terms. And the reason why is because I grew up in church and I got to my adult life before I realized that Sunday morning church services and the Sabbath were not the same thing, or they didn't have to be, right? They were two different things. Sunday absolutely can be a day of Sabbath, but it doesn't have to be, okay? So literally, Sabbath, rest, in the Bible is from the root word Shabbat, which simply means to stop, okay? And so at its root, the activity is just that. God expects a stop in the work that you do, okay? But it's a little bit more than that, especially on this side of the Old Testament. Now that we're in the New Testament time and Jesus has fulfilled the law, it's a little bit more for us. So here's the definition that we're going to be working with today, all right? Sabbath is a purposeful stop to regular activity to realign with God. There's three distinct parts to that, and I don't want you to miss them. A purposeful stop to regular activity in order to realign with God. Literally, what we're doing is we're recalibrating the pursuits of our lives so that we line up with the pursuit of God's kingdom, what Jesus actually came here to establish. And so Tommy last week brought us through a bunch of chapters in Genesis, and we are about to summarize 30 chapters in Exodus in about 2 sentences, okay? God has rescued his people from slavery, the whole Pharaoh, let my people go. That's Exodus. And then he brings them to Mount Sinai through a bunch of miraculous ways. And he starts giving them laws and guidelines and rules for 2 purposes, for the well-being of their lives, but then also on how to worship him properly. And so just for context, God starts this conversation with Moses with the 10 Commandments. You know where the 10 Commandments are in Exodus? Exodus 20. We're 10 and a half chapters later. I mean, no disrespect to the God of the universe. That's a lot of information. That's a lot. 10 chapters of God instructing all sorts of things. And so I'd imagine for Moses, his response to 2 words that we read should be the same to us, is it ought to make us stop and listen. So the very first part of the quote that God gives Moses to bring to the people is above all. If you mark in your Bible some, I would highlight that. Above all. And then we really need to put ourselves in Moses' shoes, because you've just sat there and listened to God go through how to build the dimensions of the tabernacle, what materials the Ark of the Covenant should be made out of, what priests are supposed to be and what they're supposed to wear, what incense you're supposed to burn, what sacrifices you're supposed to make. He has gone through the gambit of so much detail on how to live life well and worship him. If I'm Moses and I get to the point where God says, hey, above everything, I'm buckled, I'm ready, I'm like ready for something huge, and he says, don't work. Okay. Don't kill people. Cool. Don't have any other gods above me. No, above all, God says, cease from your work. That's kind of amazing to me. And I don't know if you caught it, to add seriousness to above all Sabbath, Did anybody else in here catch the 2 death threats that God gave to all of his people via Moses? Have you ever had God say, hey, do this or I'll kill you? I haven't. That seems mildly scary. That you should break from your work or die. I'm just curious. Jobs in the room, people who are employed. Has your employer ever said something like, hey, if you put in extra effort, I got to let you go? No? What about teachers in the room? I know teachers, y'all are ready for a break, right? You're ready. How many supervisors, superintendents, principals are coming to you saying, if I catch you grading papers on the weekend, you're gone. You're done. All of us, whether you're in school now or not, we've all had teachers, good and bad, not trying to decide who's who, but what teacher have you ever had that says, if you study extra for this test, I will fail you in a heartbeat? This makes no sense. None of this makes sense. It's counterintuitive to the world around us, and it also includes holidays, right? So here's what's funny. The sentence that I did have in here in my prep was, who of us has family members that say, if you show up on Christmas Eve, I'm going to kill you? And some of us might, okay? So I don't want to discount that. I had to rephrase and restructure how we got into this one. But which of us has a mostly healthy, stable family and grandma? And I don't know why grandmas get a bad rap for this. I'm sorry, grandmas in the room. But which of your families is just expecting you to spend less time with them this holiday season? No. Aren't they expecting you every moment of the family's Christmas celebration? Yeah. But here's the reality for us. Being a part of everything under the sun is what we are told by our culture and sometimes by our hearts, that it'll make us happy and make us progress further in life. We get rewarded for longer hours, more activity, how busy we are, or how busy we appear. And all of the busyness and hurry is celebrated by others and by us, but is to the detriment of how God designed us to function best. Y'all, in studying for this, it ignited a renowned sense of how good God is, and I want you to see it. How good is God that not only did he create the Sabbath by an example. Genesis 1, right? What happens? God creates everything in 6 days. On the 7th day, what happened? He rested. Do we get that? Or are you like me and I just skip over that part because that's the only day God did nothing? The only being to ever exist that didn't need rest, he rested because he knew one day we would need an example to follow. How wise is God to have the forethought that, hey, they are going to need this and they're not going to get it on their own? Even better than that, God commands Sabbath rest, knowing the tendency of the human heart is bent towards self-satisfaction and stuff. And so he put guardrails up to protect us from ourselves. How good is God? And so I want to end our time this morning talking through some practical steps. I think we all get it. We're busy. Stop talking about it. I'm tired of hearing it. Okay, fine. We're going to talk practical steps, but before we get there, I had 2 pages of notes over this that I scrapped because I think it's just going to end up more confusing than instructive. What I'm not going to do is a legalistic thing where I tell you, hey, Sundays have to be your Sabbath day, or Friday at sundown to Saturday at sundown has to be your Sabbath day. The way we are right now, especially in Houston with shift work and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be different for every person to find that one day a week where we can Sabbath rest. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is simply find that time for you and your family. I can't do that for you. Sometimes it may look different. It may be multiple days through a week where you have to structure. Some of you have such chaotic work schedules that, number one, I don't need a supervisor calling me saying, hey, I just had to fire a guy, said that you told him to Sabbath instead of work. I don't want to be responsible for that, okay? So find the time that works for you and your people. But on to application. I've got three quick things that I want us to set a foundation. So one is more philosophical, and then two, like I said from the beginning, are very specific, but they come out of years of dealing with this now that haven't been super pleasant, okay? So the first thing, set the foundation from directly the words of Jesus. Come to me. How do we Sabbath this Christmas? We come to me. And again, not Brandon, Jesus. These are all words in red in Matthew 11. Jesus says, come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart. You will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I don't know about you, but even without entering into a Sabbath rest right now, the busyness of my life, these words of Jesus, knowing that he actually spoke them out loud, man, that does something in my heart. That is a calming, soothing presence of Jesus in my life, those words. That if I go to him, I will find rest. That is true for every single person. But the truth is, unless we've ever come to Jesus, we will never find rest. I don't care how many Sabbath breaks you take. So there's, no matter what room you're in ever, and I don't do this in a judgmental way, there are people who follow Jesus by faith, and there are people that don't. There are true Christians and not. And I don't know where you fall again. I'm not going to tell you where you are, but you know, and more importantly, God knows. But the truth is, Christianity is not you being here today. Christianity is not you knowing a little bit about the Bible. It's not a checkbox that you put on a census. It's also not knowing everything about the Bible, being here every week. That is not being a Christian. Being a Christian is by faith, trusting in the saving work of Jesus, that what he did on the cross was enough for you. And I don't know if you've ever heard that. I don't know if you've ever responded to the gospel by faith before. What better day than today if you don't know Jesus? Because lovingly, you may love the idea of not working. It will not bring you rest unless you have come to him first. Two very specific application points on that foundation. Be okay with no. Be okay with no. How many of you are like me, or mostly me? How many of you are yes people? You say yes to everything. Or too much. Yep. Okay. Not that many. Wow. So I'm going to have a lot of people mad at me here in a second. Oh, no. Yes people, say no. Say, like, literally, if you're overwhelmed, if you are busy and you know it and you know you need Sabbath rest, you're going to have to say no to something in your busy schedule in order to Sabbath. You're going to have to say no to something. Be okay with saying no. For the rest of you, prepare your hearts. I mean this in a second way. Maybe you're not the person who needs to say no. Maybe you're the person who needs to be okay when someone says no to you. It's awkward, I know. Be okay with receiving. It doesn't mean someone doesn't like you. It doesn't mean that they don't want anything to do with you or they don't think your thing is fun, or it doesn't mean anything personal. Be okay with a no. My Mimi, who I love very much and has passed away, and I want to say at the front that I would give anything to spend Christmas Eve with Mimi again. But a funny thing happens. Did you know that most families celebrate Christmas time either on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or both? Did you know that? Those are the main 2 days. A fun fact, when you get married and you bring two families together, you now have conflicting schedules. Mimi did not like that for 20 years of my life, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day were hers, and now they weren't. No was not well received. And guess what? I take no's personally too. I'm not exempt from this. I'm certainly not trying to badmouth my Mimi. Again, I would give anything for another one of those days. But some of us need to hear that. Be okay with no. Last thing. Come to Jesus. Be okay with no. Put your phone away. I know it's specific, and I know you're not going to find a verse in the Bible about it, but this has been the hardest lesson to learn in order to Sabbath rest for me. The reason I put tech in parentheses is because I work with students, and I don't know if you know anything about students, but they find loopholes in everything. So if you want to tax evasion, if that's your thing, hand them the code. They'll find all the loopholes, and you're good, all right? But here's what I know in seriousness. Don't cheat on your taxes. And I know if you go home and you institute, hey, our family's going to Sabbath on this day, and as soon as you say to your kid, or maybe this is you who makes this excuse, that we need to put our phones away, what happens? They run to Netflix or their video games. They find the loophole in your rule. The point is, get rid of anything that numbs the mind and distracts the heart. Remove it. The currency of the tech industry is not money. Did you know that? It's not money. Yes, technology costs money. Yes, I pay $1,000 for a phone that costs $10 to make. Yes, that is true. But the currency of technology is attention, your attention. And I am sad to say that I have contributed far too much wealth to the filthy, rich tech industry, and it has nothing to do with money. Everything to do with my attention. How does our attention to God measure up to our attention to fill in the blank? Your phone, this game, binge watching something. Hopefully we saw some numbers that we don't love. That we know, man, my attention to this is greater than my attention to God. The reality is God is asking for one day where we say no to busyness, we say no to the distractions, and we say, God, align my heart with yours. Church, our Christ-centered answer to Sabbath rest is remembering what Christ has done. Resting in that freedom. And so my encouragement to you is simple. Engage in rest. Engage in real life with family and friends around you. Go outside. Cook, grill, bake, create something. Enjoy and honor God. Spend time with Him. Sit in silence for a while. You want to know the best news? Take a nap. Rest. There should have been other claps today than that one. Don't do anything. And the entire time you sit there and remember, God's desire is for me to do this and enjoy Him and enjoy Jesus and giving me rest in Him. Let's pray. God, we need you today. We need rest. God, that's not true. I am anxious and restless and busy. I don't think I'm alone. God, I need you. I cannot rest without you. God, help me to come to you. Help me to get rid of distractions. Help me to make space for your rest. I cannot do it without you, God. I need you. I love you, and I trust you. In Christ's name.